Hello, everyone. Welcome back to D&H TV. I am Chris Phillips, and today we're here to talk about the ultimate premium home office solutions. Back in 2020, pretty much a year ago today, a vast majority, pretty much all of us that were able to transition to a work from home environment. And if you remember correctly, and it's been 1 year that's felt like one long day that's felt like 100 years. When that happened, if you weren't prepared or you weren't in a situation where you were already working from home, there were aspects of your work from home hardware setup that were maybe not the best. They were like band-aid solutions. It was difficult to get webcams. It was difficult to get headset microphones, things of that nature. We are now one full year removed from that. And as we continue to work from home, it's time to take those band-aid solutions that you created last year and evolve those for you and your customers. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And to help me with that, I have Josh Shaffner with me. He's actually in the D&H headquarters of the D&H Solutions Lab. Josh, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Chris, living the dream.
Living the absolute dream. Dream includes a little bit of hybrid because you get to go to the office today.
No doubt.
So throughout this panel, this discussion, we're going to be very open to you guys, and we welcome your guys' feedback and discussion topics into this. There's a Q&A selection or a little window, I believe, to the left of me. Use that to not only ask questions, but to just kind of post your comments and things that we're talking about. And, we'll be happy to add your input to this discussion and kind of really make this as interactive as possible. But to get started, I really want to talk, ask you, Josh, how was your transition when moving from environment like we were at D&H, where we were in the office 100% of the time, to working from home 100% of the time? How did that transition work for you, and where are you at today?
So when I transitioned from working at the office to working at home, I got the message that, hey, going to be working from home for a little bit. So I kind of treated it like I was going on vacation. I only grabbed my necessities that I knew I needed for sure, took them home and started working. And then as time progressed, things worsened with the pandemic and whatnot, kind of realized, well, this is going to be more of a permanent solution, a longer lasting one. So I wanted to true up the solution I had. I had the normal pain points that most people had, trying to find a location somewhere in my house that was quiet enough that I could do my work, a location that wasn't constantly being bombarded by my wife, my kids. Wife actually has a in-home daycare that she does. So not only did I have my kids, but I had the kids that she cares for that I had to take into account. So it was definitely a long process, but finally started to true up my solution and make it more like my office area at the work environment, and definitely help things out. How about you?
Well, the biggest challenge for me when moving from work from home, and Stan is telling me I have to get some better dreams, and he's not wrong. But when I moved from the office to work from home, my greatest problem was I got a lack of space at my house. We have 4 bedrooms and they're all full. I've got 2 kids. My nephew lives here, and so I got 2 kids, a 6 and a 2-year-old. I've got a 18-year-old nephew who lives here. I don't really have a space that I could dedicate to a home office. So the challenge became trying to find a way to find a space that I could make mine and still allow me to keep an eye on a 2-year-old, and during the summer keep an eye on a 6 and 7-year-old, while also still being productive at work. And I think that's one of the things, as we've progressed throughout the last year, that my hardware setup has gotten significantly better, and it's helped get along those steps. And we'll continue to talk about that today. The main problem a lot of people had when we were starting to move from work from home is when we had an issue that came up. Mine was specifically around docking stations. I couldn't get a docking station for 2 locations. I wanted to work in 2 different places of my house. I only had 1 dock. I needed a second dock, could not get one for months. People had that problem with webcams, monitors, headsets, microphones, whatever.
Oh yeah.
How has that situation changed today, Josh? What are people seeing when they're going to get that hardware that they need right now?
Yeah, obviously the nobody was prepared for this, so everybody all at once started asking for the same needs. So things weren't available. Obviously now everybody's prepared for this, and there's tons of inventory that we have now that's available, and people have even gone out of their way to come out with new solution options that kind of help for people that need to work at home and go between the hybrid environment back and forth. Since we're focusing on home now. And a lot's changed as far as what people need to be prepared with, as far as care packages and things like that. People have to come up with new standards moving forward with how they're going to prepare when they get new employees.
Yeah.
Do they have a care package that they can take home, a work from home kit essentially? And all these things are available now, and now's the best time to get started now that we're a year in.
Great example, because and we'll talk about that in a second. The hiring process that's happened work from home. Rodney brought up a great point, and I want to grab your feedback on that. Bandwidth issues were a huge problem at the start of things because like I said, I got 3 kids in the house. Can you estimate how much bandwidth an 18-year-old and a 6-year-old use when they're just watching YouTube or playing video games all day? While I'm also trying to work from home and have a constant VPN connection and are doing web calls off the day and I'm doing web conferences and trainings with you guys. It's a lot. So, I was very lucky. Me and Josh work a lot with Ubiquity. We had some Ubiquity product. I'm running a Ubiquity network in my house just to manage that stuff. We've got people that are running Netgear. What's it? Netgear. Is it Insight? The Netgear platform. We've got people running the Aruba platform in their houses. Things that they were using in a business setting. Now they're doing it in their house because they're used to using it, and they're able to manage a VLAN on those things a little bit easier to kind of put the kids and all the house network on one VLAN and give yourself a nice big old piece of the bandwidth pie at home. Josh, do you have any experience with that?
Well, it's always nice. Since I am an engineer, it's pretty easy for me to set up a thing called quality of service at my house, but not everybody has access to a network engineer at home to set that up for them. And no matter what vendor you're using, it's always going to be a different process. Yeah, exactly. So that's the great thing about us. But if they have a Comcast modem, something like that, where they don't have too much available as far as figuring out how to prioritize the right types of traffic and right bandwidth, all of that. And some people even, they're limited to what they're even available with. Some people don't have a Comcast available, so they're stuck with DSL speeds or worse. Some people have satellite, where that's where you can look into using something like LTE or some type of mobile broadband rather than relying on your typical Comcast or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And public Wi-Fi, that can be a lot of people's saving grace too. I know there's security issues around that we can combat that a different way, but public Wi-Fi is another thing that's definitely been on the boom.
Yeah, security issues are a huge concern, and we actually do have a scheduled talk about security for home workers at a later date. I don't know the exact date. It's a couple months out, so stay tuned to dnh.com/events for that. On to this topic today, though. Now that we've gotten past this point and we're sitting here today, let's talk about taking the home office experience to the next level, and let's talk about what that looks like. Because of the devices you were given, many people were given laptops, some people were given desktops. It was easier for some of those people to move to a work from home environment. There were some people that were a little bit difficult. When I started, I had my D&H laptop, which is sitting behind me. I literally was using the power adapter I was given, plugged it into the wall, took an HDMI port and plugged it into a external monitor that I had sitting around in my house. And that was my setup for a little bit. My setup today is vastly different. It's connected to a dock, 2 monitors. I got a camera, plenty of work real estate. So that's kind of the process we're going to go through today is making each one of these solutions a little bit more premium. And I'm going to start with the laptop solutions. Josh, how important is screen real estate to efficiency when you're kind of working in a work from home environment? And what are some tools people can do to get more screen real estate than exists on just a laptop screen with keyboard?
Yeah, no, I remember distinctly my first job that I had where I was given multiple monitors and the change that made on my life, the productivity increase that I was able to do. And now there's so many, communication is so key. And that's a thing that a lot of people lost, is the ability to just walk over to somebody's desk and say, hey, I need this, or hey, can you help me with that? Now we are stuck using communication applications. So we have email constantly coming in. We have messaging programs constantly coming in and alerting us. We have group messaging and collaboration tools to work with, video conferencing apps that we have to keep an eye on for web conferencing and whatnot. And these are just things to efficiently and effectively communicate with each other. It doesn't have anything to do with the line of business software that we're doing. So it's very nice to be able to have, your email pulled up on one screen, a document pulled up on another, maybe even a third window where you can compare documents and make changes and things of that nature. And to go from that setup, a multi-monitor setup at your work office, to a single monitor setup, let's just say a laptop screen at home, to me, that's cruel and unusual punishment. And I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
So what we did, though. It's what we did.
Exactly. So that's where, making sure that you give your employees docking stations that they can plug in multiple monitors with, maybe even use a television screen with an HDMI cable or something like that. Anything beats, that single monitor setup. And with the different monitors that they have out there, with the ultra wide monitors, you can get away with using a single monitor and just prioritizing the desktop space, which screen is going to have this, and size it differently, and definitely makes life a lot easier.
Lenovo has some great options in that regard along their ThinkVision. They have kind of your standard 1080p or 1440p. I prefer the 1440p monitors. Gives you a little bit more screen real estate. They also have monitors that are the ultra wides, so you can basically have 2 right next to each other from a single cable, which is useful. They have monitors with a built-in webcam, which those became highly sought after we went work from home, because it made the whole home office solution a little bit more as an all-in-one solution. So if you take a monitor solution like that, you're using a dock. Triplite and StarTech have some great docks that are available that can go up to 4K, up to 5K in some regards. Pair that with Microsoft keyboard and mouse. I was using a Microsoft mouse for the longest time that I could pair to multiple devices. Because I not only had my laptop open with me, I have a secondary screen, which I'm not going to show what's actually on the screen, but it's actually the camera to my daughter's room, my nursery. She's sleeping, so shh right now. But it lets me keep an eye on her as well while I'm still working. And one of the biggest and most important things, especially for what you and I do, Josh, is making sure that we have a webcam itself that is high quality. So when we do trainings like this, we are seen clearly. And Logitech has a lot of great options for that. Stock was an issue before, not an issue anymore. Final thing that often gets overlooked, and it's something that I've talked about regularly. So if you've been on past webcasts with me, sorry, I'm going to say the same thing again. If you're new, noise canceling headphones. Get a lot of there's a lot of misconception around them. Yes, there are noise canceling headphones that do a great job of blocking out the noise that is around you. Some cases, if you are working from home, but you're also keeping an eye on children. You don't want to maybe go that deep into the hole, but some people do. Noise canceling headphones are actually more important for the people that you are talking to rather than yourself, because the noise canceling headphones will cancel out all the background noise and help make sure that your voice is the only thing that people are hearing. Not your dogs that are barking downstairs, not your kid that's throwing a ball against the wall in the room next to you, not your 18-year-old that's yelling at this game of Madden. It's just your voice. That's kind of the advantage of noise canceling headphones. I took it to the next step, and we'll kind of talk about what I did a little bit later, but we'll continue. Noise canceling headphones, not only for yourself, but it also helps the people that you're on the other side of.
Yeah, a lot of things people run into problem-wise, though, is when they have a docking station that only has certain ports on it, and then they have a monitor that has different ports. A lot of people say, I can't, this solution's not going to work. And nowadays they have an adapter for everything. So that shouldn't be a limiting factor at all anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach behind to grab my dock, but I actually had that exact problem came up. And I found an adapter from StarTech that it went, basically my dock was only one display port out and I needed 2 monitors. So I was able to get an adapter from StarTech that went from USB 3 to HDMI. Worked brilliantly, and I plugged that into my dock, so I was still only using one cable into my laptop, and it was kind of my way to make the solution work. I've retired that because I now have a dock that actually has 2 display ports that can do the job properly, but it's just an example of we made Band-Aid fixes and now we're starting to get premium in-place solutions.
For sure.
The next thing I wanted to talk about, and this happened more than I thought it would, is those who had to bring desktop systems home, because that is a completely different beast. Even though they're both computers, when you bring a desktop system home, you take for granted all the things that are built into a laptop that aren't in a desktop. A desktop doesn't have a keyboard and mouse built into it. A desktop typically doesn't have wireless internet built into it. It definitely doesn't have a screen built into it. It often has no way to recover if the power goes out. There are things that make desktops very, very difficult. And I remember very vividly a year ago, around today, one of my wife's coworkers, his wife, was sent home from her office with a desktop computer under her arm. They said, take this home, go do work from home. Didn't give her a monitor, didn't give her keyboard. She had no wired internet access at her house. It was all wireless.
Yep.
So I remember driving down to their house, fishing a wire, like running a wired cable from the router underneath the living room into the basement, back up into to their bedroom. Grabbing a spare keyboard and mouse, grabbing a spare monitor. It was a mess for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Now that we are a year past, it's time to take that solution and make it a little bit more permanent. And you can still use a lot of the things we just talked about with laptops. Great monitor setups, whether you need a single monitor or you need multi-monitors because you do a lot of work. Keyboards, mice, things of that nature. Something you want to think about adding to it is ways of connecting wirelessly. How do you add wireless connectivity to a system that doesn't already have it, Josh?
Well,
What are some
adapters.
options?
Yeah, there's USB adapters that you can get. There's also actually, if you have PCI slots available, you can actually get the cards that slip in there. But the most common way is to just get a USB adapter that can connect up to your normal wireless standards. Now you might want to get one that also supports Wi-Fi 6. Another good one to have is a Bluetooth adapter. So many devices are Bluetooth now. It's good to have both Bluetooth and something for Wi-Fi.
Let me add that to the list of things I need to buy. I still don't have
that. Yeah, it was funny because most people, if you have a laptop at your office, at your workstation or whatnot, all you have to do is detach that from your docking station and take it home. And although it might not be as convenient, you can still work. But like you said,
Yeah.
if you're just disconnecting your desktop, you better take every peripheral that's hooked up to it, or you're going to be dead in the water.
And one thing I touched on, I want to dive a little bit deep into it, is power backup because it's often forgotten about at home. If you can get yourself a UPS, like a CyberPower Home Office UPS for your work system, it will not only ensure that it kind of is able to stay online during a quick blackout or brownout, it will also help make sure that if the power does get out, you can do a gradual shutdown. Make sure you can save all your work before your computer shuts down. There's another aspect that people forget about that I'm gonna use as a hot tip for you guys if you're not doing it already. Buy a desktop UPS, like a CyberPower Home UPS, for your router, for your internet connection. So if the power goes out briefly at your house, I don't know about you guys. I'm sure it's probably the same for most people. If the power goes out and the internet router gets turned off, it's going to be about 3 to 5 minutes before your internet comes back online. But if you have a UPS on that router, it can run it for hours without power. If you've got a laptop, that's great. You can run your internet for hours during a blackout just with a single desktop UPS. It's something to think about. It's a kind of a way to help keep yourself online through the normal hustle and bustle of things that can happen at your house.
And
Anything
we
else?
can help out if you need, if there's a lot of devices that you're worried about, we can work with you and figure out, okay, what models do you have? If you, let's say you do have a PoE switch, if that PoE switch is powering on, 10 access points at your house, I know that's excessive, but that's something that you got to take into account and make sure, with the wattage that's going to be used, how much time do you need? Hours would be great, but typically that's asking a lot. Just to get 15 minutes can be a lot to ask, depending on the wattage. So you're more looking for the power blips, not the complete power outages where you're out of power for 2, 3, 4 hours. This is more for the brownouts, like you said, where you're talking about 15 minutes, a half an hour. Of time loss, and just making sure that everything from the modem to the switch to the access points to your PC and anything else that needs plugged in is definitely being backed up.
So Ronnie's got a couple questions. If you're doing a single monitor, like what's the minimum size for it? Size is it's dependent on the job you're doing. I think the one I'm using right now is a 27-inch or 24-inch. Resolution is going to be the big one. If you can get a 1440p monitor, it's going to give you more screen real estate to work than a 1080p monitor. So I would look at 1440p's. If you're doing multi-monitor setup, you can do probably two 1080p's. That's a good one to do. RAM, if RAM is a consideration, RAM usually, if you've got a system that's got 4 megs, it's definitely time to upgrade. Anything that's usually 8 or higher can do basic office work. If you're doing a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of programs opening, you need 16 minimum. That sounds about right.
And there's so much that people don't realize is going on in the background nowadays. That's taking up resources and whatnot. It's definitely good to be on the safer side of things. Spending a couple bucks more for more RAM in a device can definitely extend its life by 1 or 2 years and definitely make up the cost over the long run.
Larry had a great idea or a great point. I want to bring it out to you guys. We're getting into spring now. If you don't have the ability to extend your Wi-Fi out into the patio, do it. Do yourself a favor, because when it starts getting nice outside, you might want to take a break from working inside 4 walls, and you might want to go outside and be able to work for a couple hours while you're trying to unwind a little bit.
Mental health is very important nowadays.
And we can talk about that next. I had that a little bit that further down the list, but the environment you actually select when you're working from home is very important. If you have the ability to kind of create a little home office for you, and you're able to do that and make that a space just for working, that can actually vastly improve your mental health, because once you leave that space, it actually allows you to kind of disconnect from the work. If you're working at the kitchen table in the living room, somewhere where you're commonly just living in the house, you can often feel like that you never leave work,
Yep.
and that at this point, we're a year deep in this, can start to have drastic mental wear on you. So to have the ability to get a Wi-Fi extender and go work out in the patio for a little bit, or create a space that's just for working, can help mental health. Is there any other kind of tips, as you mentioned that you were struggling with that at the beginning? Is there any tips that you have to kind of work through
If you
that?
can, if you can find a place where you can kind of have window access, just so you can occasionally look outside and realize the world's not ending, even though it sometimes feels like it. All the terrible things that are just going on in the world right now. Sometimes just looking up at a sunny day can make the day a lot better.
I don't have direct window access, but what I've gotten into the habit of doing, especially since I'm getting, ordering so much stuff online, you get packages, sometimes once a day at this point. I have my home my home security cameras set up right next to me as well, so I can just kind of look out and go, oh, that does look like it's a nice day outside. I can't wait to get out. Can't wait to
No
get out
doubt.
there and put something on the grill, especially on a day like today in Pennsylvania, where it's actually like 61 degrees. Yeah, 61 degrees right now. Um, Furniture considerations, yeah. If you have the ability to again have your own desk, be able to get a chair that's more comfortable. If you're constantly sitting in a dining room chair, like a wooden
Yeah.
chair, trying to do your work, that can be a nightmare. We're getting to the point where your ergonomics of your home office can start to wear on you if you kind of slap some things together.
It's those little things that make the world of a difference.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing to consider, and this is kind of, I'll get into this a little bit, is if you have someone that does a specialized job, being able to specialize a home office solution specifically for them. And I can use myself as an example. Myself, Josh, we do a ton of these web trainings. So I wanted to kind of create a space, or create a solution that would allow me to do these web trainings as effectively as we were doing them at the office. So to do that, I actually kind of needed to upgrade some things. I did upgrade my camera to a 4K one from Logitech, just to get a better image quality. I'm using kind of a standard, microphone you would see on radio, television. It's a USB microphone that's available at D&H. I attached it to an arm so it's easier to use. And then because I don't have a space, I'm actually not sitting in this space. I'm sitting in my bedroom right now. So I actually went ahead, and I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can show this or not. Let me see. Background. Let's deactivate this. Activate that. I'm behind a green screen. That's all smoke and mirrors. But it allows me to create a space within my house that I can do a broadcast from, that looks presentable, because behind there is probably about 4 baskets of laundry and some toys that my daughter left on the floor that I have yet to clean up. But I need to create a space that's presentable to do this webcast. So I went ahead and made sure I could create a solution to go ahead and do those for you guys. Let me see if I can get this back now. Wow, it's like magic. But it allowed me to kind of create like different areas that I can virtually put myself in, and customize my background and my environment to the type of training I'm doing. So the only way to get that kind of information from your customers or your resellers or the resellers to get that from the customers is just to talk to them and do a hardware audit of what they currently have right now and what they need to update. And that might take some time. So if you haven't talked to your customers that are working from home, now might be a time to check in with them and go, hey, how's your work from home hardware setup? What are you doing on a daily basis that needs maybe a specialized piece of product for? And then you can actually create a specialized solution just for them. We've had people that needed quad monitor setup because they do spreadsheets on one, they had stock market on the other, and they had, general email on the next one, but they were using like one giant 4K, and it wasn't the 4K TV they were using had latency issues, so there was a little delay in moving their mouses. So we kind of helped them through that process of creating a more specialized solution.
Happy employees are definitely more productive employees. So a lot of times the employee won't, complain about what they're given. You actually have to ask, like you just said, and sometimes just, asking those questions. What are your pain points at working at home? What can we do to make it better for you? The cost involved with that will pay for itself and the up productivity for sure.
Yeah. Just going through a lot of these questions. Virtual background. I think it's more specifically what I was talking about. You can use software to create virtual backgrounds, like Zoom, WebEx, Teams all have the ability to create virtual backgrounds without the need for a green screen. The reason I'm using a green screen for this is if you are the main presenter and you're using a virtual background, there is some glitchiness. So it's not perfect. None of them are. Actually, someone that's using a virtual background and you are watching them from a long period of time, the viewers can start to get fatigued from seeing kind of this ghosting effect that's happening around them. Whereas if you're using a green screen, it's very clean. You can often fool people into thinking that you're sitting in an environment a little bit more than if you were using a virtual background. Myself, I'm actually just using a free piece of software called OBS. It's like, I think it's Open Broadcast something software. That has the ability to create a virtual webcam, and then you use the virtual webcam to connect to a program like this, which is our broadcasting suite. So I've just created a virtual webcam on my system that I can customize and do all that stuff behind the scenes. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you are doing a presentation, a training for 50, 100, 1,000 people. I don't have this green screen set up all the time. This is only for you guys because you guys are special and you guys mean a lot to me. But if I'm just going into a general Teams meeting, I'm just going to use the virtual background
or
that comes with Teams.
Or if you're an inspiring Twitch streamer,
right, exactly.
That would be a good option too.
Well, we've talked about that before, and we talk about that on future webcasts and things of that nature. But yeah, it's making sure you're able to kind of customize what you're doing for the audience or for the customer that's actually doing the work. Josh, anything else that you'd like to touch on? We touched briefly on network stuff. You're a network sales engineer. What are some pain points people have been seeing at the network and for their houses, and how have they been able to overcome that?
Yeah, a lot of people, when they do find that sweet spot in their house where it's quiet, there's space and all that, they also realize, oh, shoot, I don't have Wi-Fi down here, or I do have Wi-Fi, but it's pretty, hit and miss. And the last thing you want is if you're in the middle of an important Zoom call or WebEx call, Teams call, whatever it is, that your connection drops, or you start losing audio, your video starts going in and out. So a lot of people will use something like a Wi-Fi extender. It all depends on what solution you're using, but there's some solutions out there where you can just add an access point to your environment. You had mentioned Ubiquity. Everything's managed from a central controller, and you can. So some of these can even be wirelessly uplinked. So all you really need to do is power that guy into a power outlet, and it'll wirelessly uplink off of another access point. Some people avoid the whole wireless altogether. They're for whatever reason, they may not be confident in that, and they'll just buy an Ethernet cable. I know it's not really aesthetically pleasing, but you buy a 300-foot Ethernet cable, plug that into your switch, and you're good to go pretty much anywhere inside or outside your house.
Tom was mentioning that he got himself a curve monitor, or just got a curve monitor for setup using a laptop stand. So, being able to do that as well. Is there a list of the hardware we're talking about? Yes, there is. That will be available on D&H.com. I'm sure you'll get a follow-up email after the completion of this webcast. It will have the archive of this, and it will also have a landing page that has all the hardware we're talking about as well. I'm not sure if it's in the resources tab right now. If it's not, I apologize, but it will be in the follow-up email you get for this one as well.
And we can always assist with specific needs and wants to customize the solution.
Right. But with that being said, if you have guys have any more questions or ideas after this, or you're still looking for additional help with your customers trying to build a more permanent, more premium home office solution, I want to kind of point you to some resources here at D&H. Pre-sales at D&H.com is the kind of the gateway to our sales engineer and pre-sales technical support staff. We're always here. We've been answering questions literally since hour one of us all moving from working from home, helping customers get the product they need to kind of efficiently work and create that home premium home office solution. D&H.com/partner services has a bunch of templates or deliverables you can use to kind of get the word out to your customers. It's agnostic. You guys can put your logos on it and go from there. If you haven't checked out that stuff before, I highly recommend you take a look at that stuff as well. And then, as always, we have these broadcasts, and thank you guys so much for joining us, where we just have a chance to be able to sit down and kind of go over these stuff with you kind of at a discussion level, which is great. Josh, before we go, is there any final thoughts you have?
This whole experience, it's been very humanizing for everybody. Everybody's been involved, I'm sure, in some conference call where someone's kid, pops into the screen and says, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, help me. I need my water refilled and whatnot. Everybody understands that, and it's kind of nice that we all have experienced that in one way or another. But we're slowly running out of excuses why we leave some of these things still the way they are. So any questions you have, we'd be more than happy to answer them and customize whatever solution you definitely are looking for to make these upgrades.
Yeah, and real quick, there was someone I was looking for kind of a home studio template or a home studio like balm. That is something we can talk about doing. Email presales@dnh.com. Just drop us a line there, and we can talk about that as well. Why do you have a filter on the front of this? This is called a pop filter. Many different have a different name for this. Mainly, when I went to broadcast school, it was for just stopping the loud like pop peas, so it's not as loud. It basically just kind of creates a small filter to kind of soften my voice before it goes into the microphone. So that's what that thing's for, Larry.
You're so professional, Chris.
Just we're here to answer the questions. But with that, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We do have a giveaway for I believe for Amex gift cards. Winners for that will be announced after the broadcast is posted on demand. So just stay tuned to your inbox for that to see if you're a winner for there. We do have a couple of broadcasts coming up on March 31st. There will be a D&H TV event going over the 2021 State of Education. We're going over funding, programs, and qualifications for all these programs. Please register for that one. On April 20th and 21st will be the next D&H Threadcast, which is our now live online virtual events. We will have technical panels. We'll have keynote addresses from a variety of different people. We have a whole list of all of the events that are happening that place. Josh, myself, all the members of the D&H Solutions Engineering team will be hosting technical panels for that as well. So we'd love to see you guys there. Registration for that just started today. So if you'd like to, please go over to dnh.com/events and register. But with that, Josh, thank you so much for joining us. Maybe next time you can join us from the home office if you can keep the, like, see how the progress goes from there. But it's always good to see you at the Solutions Lab, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.